Now we're going to sort of venture into something that I don't tend to touch on really, like conspiracies and all this sort of shit. But I guess I find it notable the way the media tends to cover Disney. When it tends to cover Disney, everything seems to be fairly rose-colored and encouraging and supportive. Like right now, I'm looking at a Deadline article about the box office. And in talking about it, there's a quote here that I've highlighted that says, given the great reviews, yada, 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 and they go on to say how it could continue to, do well. Listen, it doesn't have great reviews. It doesn't have bad reviews, but if you go on Rotten Tomatoes right now, it's only got a 70%. That, that's a passable movie. That's less than Kong Skull Island. It's a little bit better than that Before I Fall that came out. It's like this film doesn't have great reviews. It's got pretty good reviews. And that point kind of gets hammered even further, though, with the way things are sort of coddled for Disney, which is, if you look at the critics' consensus on Rotten Tomatoes, which is where whoever runs Rotten Tomatoes, they tend to sort of look over all the reviews and come up with just a mini little blurb that summarizes what people are saying about the film. Here's what the critics' consensus reads. With an enchanting cast, beautifully crafted songs, and a painterly eye for detail, Beauty and the Beast offers a faithful yet fresh retelling that honors its beloved source material. Does that sound to you like a movie that's only got 70%? It sounds like whoever crafted this critics' consensus wants to make the film sound phenomenal when the reviews that it's in theory trying to summarize are warning you that the film has plenty of flaws. And the reason that that's interesting to me is that like even Kong Skull Island, which is actually rated higher, it has a 78% on Rotten Tomatoes. The critics' consensus says, offering exhilarating eye candy, solid acting, and a fast-paced story, Kong Skull Island earns its spot in the movie monsters mythos without ever matching up to the classic original. So you see that at the end, they kind of have to add that slightly little passive-aggressive comment that yes, it's good, but it's definitely pales in comparison to the original. And it's like, all right, I understand. The film had its flaws, and it definitely doesn't compare to the original. But this one actually touches on the negativity. Meanwhile, it's a 78% movie, and it's a Warner Brothers movie. Then you go over to the Disney movie, which is a 70%, and it sounds like they're talking about an all-time classic. And if you look around at other similar movies that have had much better reviews than Beauty and the Beast, they tend to include a little bit of negative, a little bit of something that warns you, that explains why it's in the 70s or even in the 80s instead of being in the 90s. I find it incredibly interesting that Beauty and the Beast only has a very tepid 70%, but you got Deadline referring to the great reviews, and you have this critics' consensus that makes it sound like this might be some all-time classic Disney movie. So I'm just, that sort of stuff is intriguing to me. And if I'm someone who wants to make the case that Rotten Tomatoes has some sort of bias and that the media really is pro-Disney, if I'm someone like that, which I'm not typically, this sort of stuff would definitely sort of tickle, scratch that itch a little bit and get me wondering, why is it that these Disney movies get treated with these sort of kids' gloves? 70% is not a great movie. So, anywho, I think I've gone far enough down that little rabbit hole. I'll kind of let you guys discuss what you think of that and what you make of that.